Good afternoon. I'm Ocel Dauphinais-Matheson, Manager of Operations at Veterans Affairs Canada, and I will be your Masters of Ceremony today. First, I want to welcome everyone to the Canadian National Vimy Memorial for this important announcement. Minister MacAulay, Deputy Minister Ledwell, distinguished guests, thank you all for joining us. Thank you as well to our guide, Allison, who will also be speaking shortly, and to all of our friends and partners for being here today. And a special hello to everyone in Canada watching us on Facebook. Le terrain sur lequel nous nous retrouvons et les 100 hectares de terre qui l'entourent ont été cédés à perpétuité au Canada par la France en 1922, en remerciement des sacrifices consentis par les Canadiens pendant la Première Guerre mondiale et de la victoire remportée par nos troupes lors de la prise de la crête de Vimy en avril 1917. Ce qui rend ce site si significatif, c'est en partie le monument. Il a été construit par le peuple canadien en hommage à ses concitoyens qui ont combattu pendant la guerre, et en particulier aux plus de 66 000 Canadiens qui ont donné leur vie. We honor their service and their sacrifice in how we remember them, both in our words and with our actions. Here at the Canadian National Vimy Memorial, a profound way to pay tribute is to treat these grounds and this impressive monument with appropriate care and upkeep. And that is what brings us here today. Alors, pour commencer, j'inviterai John Desrosiers, directeur des opérations internationales d'Anciens combattants Canada, à prendre la parole. John.
Bonjour. Au nom de l'équipe des opérations internationales, bonjour à tous et tous et bienvenue au Monument national du Canada à Vimy. L'hommage le plus impressionnant que le Canada ait rendu à ses citoyens qui ont combattu et donné leur vie au cours de la Première Guerre mondiale. Le mémorial fait plus d'indiquer l'emplacement de la bataille dont les Canadiens tirent de la fierté que toute autre survenue au cours de la Première Guerre mondiale. Il représente un hommage à tous les Canadiens qui ont combattu pour leur pays durant ces 4 années de guerre, en particulier à ceux qui ont donné leur vie. Il est au plus de 700 000 visiteurs qui viennent par année ici pour apprendre de nos guides étudiants les champs de bataille préservés et pour se jamais oublier. Et c'est où, avec grande fierté, que l'amitié franco-canadienne est fort et concret. Je souhaite la bienvenue au ministre des Anciens combattants du Canada et ministre associé de la Défense et notre sous-ministre. Toujours un grand plaisir pour vous accueillir. Welcome, Minister. Welcome, Deputy Minister, to Vimy, Canada's most impressive tribute overseas to those Canadians who fought and gave their lives in the First World War. It's always a pleasure to welcome you to our magnificent site. Merci.
I was a guide at Vimy in the spring of 1989. I was 19, just, and I was among the last generation of guides to have the privilege and honor of meeting veterans of the Great War when they visited the memorial and park at Vimy. I shook their hands. I listened to their stories. I was able to thank them face to face for their valor. I'm 52 now, and there are days when that summer, that year feels impossibly distant. But I still remember the thrill of seeing the great memorial for the first time. I remember the cold and quiet of the tunnels deep beneath the chalky soil of Vimy Ridge. And I remember the faces of the veterans I met that spring. I will never forget.
Donc, merci John. I would now like to call on the Honourable Lawrence MacAulay, Canada's Minister of Veterans Affairs, to make today's announcement. Minister.
Thank you very much, Ocel. And thank you, your worships, friends of Vimy, and all you and for all your work for commemorating Canadians. I can tell you it's a pleasure to be here today. We're here this afternoon on the sacred grounds of Vimy, in the shadow of Canadian National Vimy Memorial. Etched into the stone's memorial are the names of 11,285 Canadians who lost their lives in France during the conflict, most of whom have unknown graves. Folks like Private John Fairchild Leslie from Morel, PEI, just a couple of miles from where I live. Private Joseph Peters from Standing Buffalo Reserve in Saskatchewan. And Private Vid Vincent from Paquetteville, Quebec. Not too far from here, Beaumont-Hamel Newfoundland Memorial is another remarkable site of remembrance that pays lasting tribute to all Newfoundlanders who served in the Great War. Together, these are two prominent monuments in Europe, Canada's only two national historic sites overseas, and have just for many, these sites represent connections to family members and friends, and a reminder of all those who made the ultimate sacrifice fighting for peace. In the generations since, we've done our best to care for these memorials and help to ensure the footprint of our soldiers left behind here in Europe never fades. It's why we invest $5.7 million to plant 70,000 trees here at Vimy and Beaumont-Hamel. And that is why today I am so pleased to announce our Veterans Affairs Canada is investing $11.7 million over 6 years and $300,000 in ongoing operational funding to maintain, modernize, and enhance the visitor experience at Canada's 15 overseas memorial sites. This will range from upgrading to signage, exhibits, and experiences on sites to improve accessibility, install electric vehicle charging stations, tunnels, trench restoration, and so much more. For example, we will create a new interpretive pathway to help visitors better discover and appreciate one of the major battlefield features in Vimy, the craters which line no man's land. For people to come here and to get a view of that is who have never seen it. I remember my first trip to Vimy. I cried. If you want to feel insignificant, stand before the Vimy Memorial and you will feel insignificant. It is so powerful. We will also add more inclusive stories about Indigenous, racialized women, and 2S LGBTQI plus veterans. People such as Private George McLean, whose sole attack on Vimy Ridge earned him a Distinguished Conduct Medal. Curly Christian, who served with the Canadian Expeditionary Forces during the First War. He lost both arms and both legs at Vimy. And nursing sister Frances Collette from Fortune Bay, Newfoundland, who took care of the wounded from the battlefield. It is in their memory and the memory of the hundreds of thousands of Canadians and Newfoundlanders who so bravely served all across Europe and the world that we proudly make this investment in the monuments and memorials that honor their sacrifice. May they always and forever rest in peace, lest we forget.
Thank you, Minister MacAulay. Si je peux me permettre de résumer en français le ministre reconnaît l'importance de ce site et ce qu'ont accompli les Canadiens qui ont combattu si fort pour capturer la crête de Vimy. Il tient aussi à reconnaître que les monuments ici en Europe ont la plus grande importance pour garder en vie le souvenir de nos disparus et de tous ceux qui ont pris part aux 2 grands conflits du 20e siècle. C'est pourquoi il est si heureux d'annoncer aujourd'hui qu'Anciens combattants Canada investit 11,7 millions de dollars sur 6 ans et un autre 300 000 dollars par année pour entretenir, moderniser et améliorer l'expérience des visiteurs dans les 15 lieux commémoratifs outre-mer du Canada. Of course, the visitor experience is so important for anyone who comes here to commemorate our veterans and fallen. So who better to explain what it means to share the history of these sites with visitors than one of our own student guides? Please welcome Allison Boismier. Allison?
Good afternoon, Minister MacAulay, Deputy Minister Ledwell, and everyone else who came today. My name is Allison Boismier, and I am one of the 15 students that work on the 2 Canadian National Historic Sites in France, the Beaumont-Hamel Newfoundland Memorial and Canadian National Vimy Memorial, where we are today. Je viens de l'Ontario et j'étudie les sciences biologiques et la musique. Je suis l'une des étudiantes chanceuses qui a été choisie pour représenter le Canada en France pour une session de 4 mois durant l'hiver 2023. A quality visitor experience is what we aim for every day. As student guides, we make sure to have our products, services, and setting overlap with the visitor expectation to create a positive connection. Je comprends que chaque visiteur est unique et arrive avec ses propres besoins et attentes, et c'est mon rôle de les découvrir et de faciliter des expériences positives. Parfois, nos visiteurs sont très jeunes et viennent lors d'une sortie scolaire. Il est très important alors de sensibiliser ces jeunes à l'impact de la guerre, mais aussi de leur raconter qu'on enterre encore des soldats en 2023, que la Grande Guerre influence encore des vies en 2023. Parfois, nos visiteurs préfèrent faire une visite autonome sur les sites. Je leur fournis alors un dépliant pour apprendre et apprécier leur visite et je m'assure de répondre à toutes leurs questions. We might receive someone who just found his grandfather's grave and is too emotional to take a tour with us, but still wanted to come in to thank the Canadians for still being here after all these years to take care of Vimy. As a team, we provide people with resources that will facilitate opportunities to discover, explore, and connect with our 2 national historic sites overseas, as well as Canada's other 13 First World War sites. We all understand that when visitors feel an emotional bond with our sites, they too become commemoration ambassadors. L'énormité du courage et des sacrifices que ces lieux sacrés ont vus est une leçon d'humilité et un rappel de l'importance de la commémoration. It is a huge privilege to represent Canada in these places and to tell the stories of those who served here. Thank you for having this wonderful program.
C'est à l'âge de 19 ans que j'ai travaillé sur le site commémoratif de la Première Guerre mondiale de Vimy. C'était la première fois que j'allais en Europe. J'avais 19 ans et mon aventure a commencé en représentant le Canada et en faisant découvrir ce site vraiment important pour notre mémoire collective. J'en ai appris beaucoup sur l'histoire, sur la contribution des Canadiens et Canadiennes pendant la Première Guerre mondiale. Et sur le site, on vit vraiment une expérience très personnelle, très intime avec quel devait être le quotidien des soldats qui étaient dans les tranchées. Et pour moi, ça a été une grande fierté de partager l'effort de guerre, mais aussi de rappeler le sacrifice des hommes et des femmes, mais à Vimy, tout particulièrement des hommes qui étaient dans les tranchées, sur la ligne de front, qui ont laissé leur vie, puis qui sont battus pour défendre les valeurs canadiennes de liberté, de tolérance et d'inclusion.
Merci beaucoup, Allison. Très beau discours. La commémoration est un élément clé du mandat d'Anciens combattants Canada. I'd like to invite Deputy Minister Paul Ledwell to say a few words about why this investment is so important.
Merci, Ocel. Monsieur le ministre, monsieur les maires, les représentantes, les amis de Vimy, merci pour être ensemble pour cette annonce importante. We know that each time that we return to Vimy and we walk these fields and visit these sites here at Vimy and Beaumont and elsewhere, we remember and take note of those who sacrificed their lives for peace and freedom. It's really like stepping back in time. And for many of us, we have a direct family connection. I was talking to one of our guides earlier, Drew, whose great-grandfather was here during the Battle of Vimy, and my own grandfather, Thomas Alexander Ledwell, walked these fields and fought during the Battle of Vimy. And we remember in 1917 those first brutal few days in April when all 4 divisions of the Canadian Corps fought first together as one formation. On ne peut s'empêcher de regarder autour de nous et de se demander ce que ça a dû être. De se frayer méthodiquement au chemin sur des côtes contre un adversaire bien retranché et déterminé. De faire face à un feu ennemi féroce sans même avoir une minute pour pleurer ceux qui sont tombés en chemin et de réussir contre toute attente à prendre le dessus. It's haunting to stand here knowing that this is where so many Canadians gave their lives all those years ago. And yet it brings us comfort knowing that the peace and security that we enjoy today is due to the brave Canadians who fought so hard alongside Allied forces to ensure the survival of their generation and the ones that would follow. That is the power of remembrance and of a commemorative site like this. Et c'est pourquoi notre ministère est si déterminé à s'assurer que nos monuments commémoratifs en Europe continuent de rencontrer l'histoire des Canadiens et des Terre-Neuviens qui ont combattu et sont morts en cours de la Première et de la Seconde Guerre mondiale. We know how much these sites mean to you as well, our friends in France, both for the history that they help to keep alive and for the way that they continue to bring people to your communities. Like the ties that were forged between our soldiers on the battlefield, the monuments that honor them testify to the bonds that still exist between our nations. And all of us in Canada are deeply thankful for that. With this investment, we are ensuring that current and future generations of young people will keep learning about the sacrifices made for freedom and the values that they were fought for, which we Canadians hold so dear. Because learning, even after all this time, is how we keep alive the memory of our fallen, so that their sacrifices will never be forgotten. We will remember them. Nous nous souviendrons d'eux. Merci.
Thank you, Deputy Minister Ledwell. As we finish today, I'd like to invite Canadians to consider visiting this memorial and others when they're traveling through Europe. Il n'y a pas de meilleur moyen de comprendre pleinement ce que nos ancêtres ont vécu que de mettre les pieds sur les champs de bataille où tant d'entre eux ont donné leur vie pour nous. En tant que Canadiens, nous avons tous un devoir de mémoire et visiter les sites où nos soldats ont tant sacrifié est une façon significative de se souvenir d'eux. This brings today's event to an end. Thank you again to everyone for joining us and for your continued commitment to this site and to all others like it that keep alive the memory of our fallen and all those who wore the uniform for Canada during the First and Second World Wars. Thank you. Merci.